Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Welcome to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage from the Vault Series. The Vault Series are one-on-one interviews that were shot as far back as 2004 for usage throughout the Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum here in Nashville. These have never been seen by the public before, and if you like them, please hit like, subscribe, and your notification bell so that you don't miss any of our new uplinks every week. Thank you. Today's From the Vault Series guest, studio guitarist and singer-guitarist of the biggest selling live album of all time, Peter Frampton. What's your earliest memory of wanting to play an instrument?
Well, the earliest time I can remember is when I first found an instrument in our attic that my grandmother had given to my father, his mother, and said maybe one day, one of the kids will play this, and it was a ukulele. It was a banjolele actually, but shaped like a banjo, but basically a ukulele. So I started, my dad showed me like C, F, and G, and that was it. So the four strings, I could handle that, and I was about, I guess, it was before my 8th birthday anyway. So so I was learning things like She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain When She Comes, and Freight Train, Going So Fast. And that was my repertoire at the time. And then the first time I ever played got my own guitar was Christmas, would have been 1959, I guess. I got the generic 6-string. Very cheap, the cheapest on them. I don't know what you would equate it to today, but it just had no name, So, and my father taught me how to tune the other 2 strings, and off I went. So that was my beginning.
So you came from a musical family then?
Yeah, basically. My father played guitar in a college dance band, big band type of thing. And my mother's side of the family were singers and stuff like that. My grandfather on my mother's side was sang in the Abbey in London, so Westminster Abbey. So he had a pretty good voice. So I guess that's where I got a little help there in the gene pool.
So what was the first time you ever performed in front of an audience?
Apart from the family, which was, I held them hostage to play to them, it would have been when I was about right after I got that first guitar. That's pretty much all I did when I wasn't at school, and so I was a Cub Scout, and they had a show at the end of the year where everybody came together, and I was asked, because I played guitar, to accompany some people. So that's when I said, well, I'll accompany, a couple of acts, if you want, but you got to give me my own spot, So I'm, 8 or 9 at this point, so it's pretty precocious. So anyway, I accompanied all the other people, and then played my little set, and went down pretty well. And so I then informed the audience that, as you seem to like me, I'll like to do you another one. So I started big.
So when did you put your first band together?
That would have been when I was 11, 10 or 11. It's getting very hard to remember now. But yeah, it was at school. There was an end of term. It seemed to be these events that would you have something to put a little band together. So it was just people at the school that I did an instrumental of The Shadows, and I also sang Peggy Sue by Buddy Holly. So that was my first.
So you had like a 4-piece band?
It was 3-piece actually. We didn't have bass. We thought it was creative. Yeah. Plus, we couldn't find anybody. So,
So, how long before Humble Pie came around?
Well, there was another band in between. The first band that I joined to be a professional musician was The Herd, and we were 1967, something like that. I left school at 16 and joined The Herd, and within a year we had a residency at the Marquee Club in London, and got management through that. It was like, you know, a showcase kind of thing, you know. So we got management and a record producer out of that, and bingo, all of a sudden our second single was a hit. So we had 3 top 10 singles, a couple of them were top 5, and then I got fed up with that. I was not playing enough guitar, and the music was going the wrong direction. So that's when I met Steve Marriott from the Small Faces, who were also a huge, much bigger than the Herd, but a huge band. So we started jamming together, and that was it. Once that happened, I didn't want to be the singer anymore. I mean, I never really did. I just wanted to be the guitar player. So even though I sang in Humble Pie, it was very nice to listen to Mr. Steve Marriott sing most of the time, and to play guitar behind him was a dream.
So, when did you make the transition to be a studio musician?
That was lack of funds, I think. That comes to mind. No, I decided, I never know what actually made the decision, but I decided to leave Humble Pie just before our live record was released, and then Rockin' the Fillmore became our first big hit, you know. And so I had left to, again, I wasn't happy musically, and I wanted to do something different, and I thought, this time I'm going to do my own solo album and see what happens. So that's in between the time I left, and we were very successful, but the shekels weren't coming in fast. You know, we didn't have a lot of money yet. That wasn't to be with me while I was with Humble Pie. But so I'm living in London, you know, and it basically needed to be able to pay the rent. So luckily I got started in doing a few sessions. John Paul Jones, the bass player of Led Zeppelin, was one of the musical directors that would hire me, and then I got to meet George Harrison, and got to play in that sect of musicians, which was amazing. So I ended up playing with quite a few people, including George himself and Harry Nilsson. It was this sort of, you know, the upper echelon of the session players as well, when you've got Nicky Hopkins and Klaus Voormann, and you know, the list goes on, and Ringo playing drums, you know. And so I felt like I'd been accepted into this very exclusive group of people, which was, I didn't say a lot, I just did my job.
So you were 19?
When I was doing Humble Pie, I was not, that was like 7, I was 20, 21, yeah.
We've got a picture in the museum of you, George Harrison, Ringo, Billy Preston, and Pete
Drake, yes.
And I just want to hear your take. I've got Pete's on film.
Oh dear.
I'll show you. If you got time for it, you know, I'll show it to you. But I just want to hear from the other side.
Let's see if it jives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'd been doing the sessions at Abbey Road for George's album for a few days, and then he said, "I'm going to bring in Pete Drake from Nashville, you know, to do the country ones." There were like 4 or 5, you know, If Not For You, which he wrote with Bob, and sorry, Mr. Dillon, and so. All of a sudden, right next to me, he's right there, you know, sets up his pedal steel, and lovely man instantly, you know, he's so likable, and he was just all smiles and just great, and he started playing some beautiful stuff, you know, and I wasn't aware at that time what his history was, you know. I was then to find out, and so it was a pleasure just meeting him. And then in some moment when nothing was going on, he plugged up his little talk box. It's a wooden box too, and I didn't know what he said, "Check this out." So he put the little tiny pipe in his mouth, and all of a sudden he started singing to me, you know, the pedal steel did, you know. So, and I Am the Guitar, or whatever he was singing, one of his hits, I think he had. And so this was a sound that I'd heard. I thought I'd heard something like this on the radio in England, we had a station called Radio Luxembourg that came from Luxembourg, and it was at nighttime only. And their call letters were done with, I've forgotten the name of it, but it's another gadget that sounds like that thing you put to your throat, and very sort of computer-like sound. And so I'd always heard a sound like that, and then when he did that, it was like so many bells went off in my head. It was, my jaw dropped to, the floor. I said, "What is that, and can I get one?"